Can we dispel the myth that it's not possible to spot reduce fat just from the belly?
You can do some exercise until you go to muscle failure. You're never going to spot reduce. You're never going to get rid of your man boobs or your belly or your love handles or your butt. That's not how it works. Okay, that's just foolishness out there. People trying to make a buck off people not knowing better. If you eat too many carbohydrates, you're going to tweak your fat storage hormones in such a way that you're going to store fat.
Is consuming too many of these unhealthy sugars that you're talking about the main reason behind this belly fat that you mentioned earlier? And also, as an addendum to that question, can we dispel the myth that it's not possible to spot reduce fat just from the belly?
Oh yeah, it's impossible to spot reduce. Millions of dollars have been made on the promise. Oh, we can get rid of your love handles. We can get rid of your pot belly. Fat loss is controlled very tightly by multiple hormones in the human body. You can do some exercise until you go to muscle failure. You're never going to spot reduce. You're never going to get rid of your man boobs or your belly or your love handles or your butt. That's not how it works. Okay, that's just foolishness out there. People trying to make a buck off people not knowing better. If you eat too many carbohydrates, you're going to tweak your fat storage hormones in such a way that you're going to store fat. The end. That's it. And so one of the beautiful things I love about a carnivore diet is that there are really two sets of hormones we need to talk about: your hunger hormones, your fat storage hormones, and your satiety hormones. These are the same in some cases, different in others. If you're eating a high carb diet, especially highly processed carbs, you're going to be tweaking your fat storage hormones to store more fat. You're also not going to be tweaking your satiety hormones to tell you that you're full. So you're going to eat too much food. So the bathroom scales that probably every listener to your podcast has in their bathroom, right? What does that measure? Does that measure energy? No, it measures mass, right? And so it's about the total amount of food that you eat and the total amount of atoms and molecules that you store on your body. That's what shows up on the scale. You can eat 10,000 calories a day of the right food, and you're not going to store much body fat. The bathroom scale is not going to move. And indeed, we've seen people who are carnivores in the bodybuilding sphere eat anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 calories a day for months and not gain any weight whatsoever on the scale, because since the human body is so adapted to eating meat, it knows exactly what to do with the meat, and it's not going to inappropriately store that as fat, as unhealthy fat. Now, every human should have some body fat. Men should have anywhere from 10 to 20% body fat. That's actually the optimal healthy range. These bodybuilders that you see where you can see the vasculature on their lower abdominal muscles, that's not healthy. That's not optimal. Now, it looks great on stage under the stage lights, but it's not optimally healthy. For women, they need to hold anywhere from 15 to 30% body fat to be a perfectly healthy woman. Now, a lot of people don't want that much, but I'm sorry, but that's the species that you are. That's healthy. And we know that from multiple different ways of looking at the human animal. So if you're eating too many carbohydrates, you're mucking up your hunger hormones. You're going to be hungry more often because highly processed grains and sugar and vegetable seed oils are nutrient void. They're not nutrient dense. So you're not getting the nutrition your body wants. So you're going to be hungry all the time, number one. Number two, the high carb diet mucks up your satiety hormones. So you're not going to feel full like you would if you ate a pound or two of fatty meat. And then number three, the high carb, highly processed diet also mucks up your fat storage hormones, and it's going to make you store fat much more readily. Now, again, people's genetics determine this to some degree. And so somebody of Asian descent is not going to store nearly as much body fat as somebody like me, who's Scotch, Irish, Nordic, Neanderthal. I'm going to store fat very, very readily, right? Where somebody of Asian descent, you have to really try to become severely obese. And it's happening more and more frequently now. on the Asian continent, but it's not nearly as ubiquitous as somebody from a more northern latitude. We can get real fat real quick if we're eating a high carb diet.
On the subject of obesity, there's so many headlines about Ozempic or semaglutide. Johann Hari is a well-known journalist on this side of the water who has written a book called Magic Pill about his
Yep.
experience on that drug, pros and cons. Can you talk to me about your views on these drugs?
The GLP-1s absolutely work to help you lose weight. But most people, if you question them in a little more detail, they would tell you, well, I don't want to lose muscle. I don't want to lose bone. I don't want to lose connective tissue, ligament, cartilage, tendon. I want to lose fat. And what we're seeing with the Wegovy, with Ozempic, with Mounjaro, is we're seeing a large amount of lean body mass loss as well, muscle loss. And you're losing fat, no doubt, but you're also losing inappropriate amounts, unhealthy amounts of lean tissue as well. That's not ideal. That's not the goal. And so basically what the pharmaceutical industry has tried to do with these medicines is they basically come up with a ketogenic diet mimicking medication. But since evolution came up with Homo sapiens sapien, and evolution came up with the proper human diet, we're talking about millions of years of experiments there, one at a time, n equals one, trial and error. If you eat the right diet, you thrive and you reproduce. If you don't eat the right diet, you become infertile and you die early. You can't, in a lab, in a pharmaceutical laboratory, you can't come up with a drug that's going to mimic that perfectly. It's only going to mimic that imperfectly, which means there's going to be a long list of side effects that are very common for people who take these drugs. And then there's also going to be another list of side effects, although less common, are much more dangerous. And so I would encourage anybody who's obese or severely obese or has type 2 diabetes who's considering these medications, before you put that medication in your body the first time, I want you to completely read all the pages of the handout that comes with those medications, because it is an imperfect keto mimicking pharmaceutical. That's what it is. And the degree to which it is imperfect is the degree to which you're going to have side effects. And indeed, we're starting to see this come out. I predict that in another 3 to 5 years, all around the world, you'll be seeing huge class action lawsuits against the big pharma manufacturers of these drugs, because the side effects will start to come out. Now, many of your listeners may not know what I'm about to say, but it's absolutely true, and it can be verified if you do a little research. Most people believe that long-term safety studies have been done for Ozempic, for Wegovy, for Mounjaro, and the others. The truth is there have been no long-term studies of safety done on these drugs. There is one long-term study going on right now, but people are not going to like it. The study is the people who are being prescribed these drugs are going to report back to their doctor. And if they have a side effect, they're going to tell their doctor. And if the doctor's a good doctor, the doctor's going to record that in the side effect database. There is such a thing in most countries. If somebody has a bad side effect from a medication, a doctor really is duty bound to report that to the database and say, hey, my patient was taking X drug, they had this severe side effect, and then put that in the database. And so obviously the big pharmaceutical companies are monitoring this database. So the experiment is going on now, and the people taking these drugs are the literal guinea pigs in the study. And so 5 or 10 years from now, when we've got enough of that data, attorneys are going to have a field day suing these corporations for billions of dollars. But the corporations don't care, because they've made hundreds of millions of dollars. And so if they get fined 5, 10, 15, 20 million, pounds or dollars or pesos or whatever, they could care less, because they've made billions. And that's typically what happens. The big pharma companies make billions and then they're fined for millions. That would be like if you got a fine for $10. You'd be like, who cares? I don't care. Big deal. Yeah, I'll pay that happily, because I've, made thousands. I don't care if I pay a $10 fine or 10-pound fine. That's how big pharma looks at this. They don't care if they get fined even $100 million because that's 1% of the profit they've made. And so I think many people don't realize they are part of the long-term study. They are the literal guinea pigs in this study. That's quite disconcerting to me, especially when a drug like this class of drugs is mucking with your hunger hormones, your satiety hormones, and your fat storage hormones, because these hormones are not just about vanity. They're not just about how you look in the mirror or how your blue jeans fit. These hormones don't give a damn about those things. These hormones have been tweaked and perfected over millions of years of evolution. They are to protect you, to keep you with a healthy amount of body fat, but not with too much body fat, to keep you with a healthy amount of lean mass, muscle, bone, sinew, but not to have too much. These hormones have been tweaked and optimized over millions of years to make you an optimal human, capable of living, eating, reproducing, and then as a grandmother or a grandfather, which is absolutely evolution knows about grandmothers and grandfathers. A lot of people say evolution just cares about up to the point where you reproduce and then nothing else matters after that. Proven untrue. And so evolution cares about grandmothers and grandfathers. They actually serve an integral role in the tribe. Evolution knows that. It can see past the point of reproduction. And so that argument falls on its face. Evolution wants you to be healthy, a healthy Homo sapien sapien. And the degree to which you eat a bad diet or take drugs that don't have long-term safety data, you risk your health, both physical health and mental health.
Hey, if you like that video, check out this video here which tells you how to get rid of that stubborn belly fat.